In this episode, I meet Faber poet Will Burns, who walks an offshoot of the Grand Union Canal daily. I also spend time with Joanna Cherry, festival director and a producer who has worked with Ruby Wax on her books and shows that deal with mindfulness. She's also a proud owner of a narrowboat, and we take a short trip up the Grand Union to discover how our waterways can help with well-being and creativity.
Welcome to The Ways of Water, a podcast series exploring our English waterways through the arts, ecology, industrial history, well-being, and the deep mysteries of water itself. Presented by me, David Bramwell, and with the occasional guest appearances from the inimitable John Shuttleworth and his neighbour Ken.
I'm Joanna, and I'm on a boat called Why Not? At the moment, I'm continual cruising up the Grand Union, but I'm at Bourne End, which is near Berkhamsted in Hertfordshire, in a very beautiful little space. This is my getaway. This is my, it's my runaway spot. I mean, it is just remarkable what happens to people when they hit this water, when you get on a boat. I mean, everyone goes on a lot about mindfulness now and being present, but that is exactly what has to happen when you can't help that happening when you're on a boat, because you've always got to be focusing on some little thing that's about to happen. A lock that's coming. Have I got the windlass? Where's the rope? Did I put it back? Oh yeah, I didn't. It's like your active mind is all the time occupied. And even as you're just going along, not in an anxious way, just in a noticing way. So you're very present. And time has a totally different relationship with me on the water. Like hours can go past. And I think I've been there for half an hour and I'll find it's 2.5. And it really is quite magical. And I'm writing a novel about this. Well, I'm basing a novel. The characters end up on the canals and getting to meet other characters, because then I can write about it. Just the extraordinarily disparate group of people that you meet, and you meet people from every background, and they all get to know each other because they've all got their boats in common. Come through. There are a lot of cobwebs there. You see?
Cozy bed. It's long. This is nice.
And then I'd never even set foot on a narrowboat until I bought it, and I just thought, well, the amount of people I know who can hardly drive a car and they say they can do it. So, but it's more a question of, actually, I think this is a baptism of fire, because this is quite a long boat for a first boat. Are we biting off more than we can chew? These elderly ladies buying this boat, because I've got so used to handling this now. Heaven, isn't it?
It is heaven.
We could just stop here. Look at that house, isn't that beautiful?
If you're happy to talk about this, I know you've worked recently with Ruby Wax through mindfulness.
Yes, I wrote those. I started off ghostwriting, but actually I ended up editing. She's a good writer, so she ended up doing her own stuff. But in the process, found out a lot about it. And the last book we did was with a Buddhist monk and a neuroscientist, the three together. And all I can say is, everything they bang on about, if you lived on the water, you just simply, that is mindfulness.
Do you think there's something about the pace as well?
It is. It's everything to do with it. It's the water. And even if you're in London, in inner London, you are always in this curious sort of other world. It's Narnia. It is through the back of a wardrobe. No traffic noise and just birds singing. And people who've discovered the canals know this. And if you live in a city, it's a fantastic place, resource for nature, obviously, but it's also just very soothing. I met my guru when I got right up the Stort. The River Stort goes up to Bishop Stortford. It's a tiny, weeny, narrow little river. You can't go in a wide beam boat, so everything's very small. And I found this woman who mends boats. She lived with about 17 dogs, and they all had their own boat. Like the dogs had their... Yeah, because she had a series of boats all moored together. There was this problem with my engine and the batteries and everything, and she and her husband just tie boats up and they mend them. And she's like a very adenoidal voice like that, so she doesn't sound like a guru at all. Everything that comes out of her mouth is just, oh my God, I've got to go and write that down. I promise you. It doesn't sound promising, but it's... And she looks like a little fairy. And I said to her things like, do you ever, get claustrophobic living on a boat? And she'd just put her head on one side and say, you can't be in more than one place at a time, can you? So why would you be claustrophobic? Why do people need space? You think, oh my God, you're so right. I've had some extraordinary moments of fear. One time I jumped off the boat holding like I did today, and left the boat in gear. So the boat was going on. I was trying to stop the boat, but the engine was still in gear. So.
Well, you were hanging onto the rope.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to be water skiing, right? That was my vision, because I wasn't going to let go. What was I going to do? The boat was just going to go. Well, of course, it would have just crashed into something, and then probably another boat, and then it would have been. And luckily, I had a friend who was just walking down, and he just did this running jump and jumped, like Indiana Jones, just jumped off the bottom of the lock and just got onto the back of the boat. He was dead shocked because everyone clapped, and he's an actor, so he loved it. He was so happy it made his life. No, actually, now that you and I have done, and you just knew nothing about the lock, so you were no help at all.
No.
So now that I've done a lock with just you on board, I reckon I can do it now. I've often watched people, and, plenty of people just on their own doing it and said, how easy is it? And they go, oh, you get used to it. You get used to everything, David. That's the other thing.
Well,
trying new things is important. I'm turning 60 in the summer, and you have to just do that. You have to just completely keep trying things, because otherwise there's not that much time left. Get on with it. That's what I say.
Harrier. We cross the river near the place where a marsh harrier has been strung out on display with wire and a hook. By 3 we have left the church and your sister's wedding, are on the manor waste, drunk on a half bottle each of cheap scotch, watching the fishmonger chuck chips of ice over his stock, close to where your legs once buckled and you opened up your chin. That crying, it started so small but swelled into thick, fathomless sound. I listened for the overtones in the pale and far-off peal of bells. I'm Will Burns, and we're in Wendover in Buckinghamshire at the entrance to the Wendover Arm of the Grand Union Canal. I've lived here since I was 10 years old in Wendover, and you can hear the school in the background. I went to that school. I knew this particular section as a child, and then I've continually used it for walks and a bit of bird watching and what have you ever since.
To our right, we've got this expanse of water stretching off into the distance. What do you think that contributes to the psychology of a walk?
Water draws the eye in a way that perhaps no other element in the landscape does. But I think the canal specifically has another important function, which is that this part of the Grand Union has never been used by boats. It was never open. The canal as an idea suggests a different mode of travel, a different kind of life, and I think that when you walk a canal towpath, maybe a river path, if that river has been used commercially or for travel as well, I think it kind of talks to us about a slower way of moving through the land. Those bodies of water, rivers and canals, I think they carry that meaning with them to everybody. And I think that's one of the reasons why they resonate with everybody when people are in such close proximity to them. This is one that came from the walks with my grandfather, and from being near this stretch of the water and seeing little grebe for the first time. And he always called them dab chicks, and so this poem sort of came out of that experience. Hunting. All the names he had for that umbral speck of a thing we saw each morning on the canal. Would the bird otherwise disappear, like the chalk stream itself in high summer? All our waters left unsecured in the latest, last defence budget. I think of those green lizards I used to watch haring into holes to escape us, and remember how the air seemed to move around your perfectly still head on your perch at the top of the hill before you squeezed off a shot. I could find that grassland, the rough blades still grazed back, but the butterflies would be gone. The summer was just too cold, and the sky is empty now, save for the contrails of the training jets. Change. A few feathers on the canal path by the copse betray the corpse. Nothing more sinister than unseasonal cold weather. The egrets and light have returned to the river the same week as a storm from Russia. The big drifts take their time, stay unthawed on the far bank for days, discoloured by a topsoil that has blown off the fields. The white birds fly, awkward, away, upriver, always away. And I move, a violence all my own, shape back through the town, alone and shamed, a man on his worn-out, empty way.
Ways of Water was presented by me, David Bramwell, and with music by Oddfellows Casino. Find out more via drbramwell.com and check out Oddfellows Casino on Bandcamp, where you'll also find links to my album and book, The Cult of Water. Many thanks to all the guests in this series and to you, the listener. Watery blessings to you all.